What's up, guys? Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I know a lot of folks that do these channels don't like to get into politics unless that's what they do is politics, but the folks who kind of do the things like what we do with different stuff, they're always kind of like your senators and your congressmen. They're always afraid they'll rub somebody the wrong way, won't get a vote or a subscribe or a like. But, for me, I kind of do these when I think, or when I get something on my mind or something I want to talk about. And, if you enjoy them, good. If you don't watch them. If you disagree with me, either watch it to disagree or just don't watch it or just don't watch the channel. That's up to you. But I've watched the last couple of days, these Democrats and left-wing lunatics are losing their absolute mind over all the things that's going on. And a couple of the funniest to me is I watched a little skit of AOC talking about how unqualified Elon Musk is to make financial decisions. What? We've got a third-rate bartender that probably couldn't pour a cold beer, that spent most of her life probably supplementing her income after work a nickel at a time. She might have got $20, I don't know. I think they call it a nickel a night for a reason for folks like her. Talking about how a billionaire doesn't have any experience or enough experience to make financial decisions or reasonable financial decisions. Listen, crack monkey, just because a bunch of retards voted for you, you didn't all of a sudden become, an expert. I guess if somebody, wanted an expert opinion on flipping tricks after work, you'd probably be the one to, get them worked through that. But you're the last person that I'd think needed to be the one making any financial decisions for anybody else. Hell, I bet you can't even make your own. And then Chuck Schumer losing his mind, telling us how the world is ending because we may not have avocados and Corona for the Super Bowl, and if we do, it's going to cost more. But Chuck, I ain't never drank a Corona in my life and got no desire to, and I hope I'm not real friends with a lot of folks who do drink Corona. I don't notice it if I am. And I guess a little guacamole is fine from time to time, but we can make salsa out of our garden right here without paying any kind of tariffs on it. And let's be honest, a good salsa is way better than guacamole anyway. So let the avocados rot on the tree and keep the Corona in the countries where we can't get access to a decent beer, and don't worry about it. And then we got Pocahontas screaming about nobody elected Elon. Well, nobody had to elect Elon. Elon wasn't running for office. Nobody elected him to go through the government's finances. Nobody elected him to make decisions. Nobody needed to elect him. The President of the United States appointed him to a position to do just that. That's exactly what he's there to do, and the President asked him to do it. And nobody really cares what Pocahontas thinks. I mean, just the retards that keep voting her in, I don't know how these people think just because they got enough votes, they're all of a sudden experts that should be telling us how to live our life when they wound up probably running for office because they got a law degree and couldn't make I guarantee you 99% of the people we've elected for office have a law degree and couldn't make a living chasing ambulances. So they start running for one thing or another and get elected, and then they get the right people behind them. And they get those people behind them by selling us. They do it by selling us. Politicians have sold us for probably the last 75 years or longer. Probably longer. 75 is probably short. Sometimes I forget how old I am, but 100 years or better. They sell us. We're paying the Trans Opera in Columbia. Have any of y'all ever been to see the show? Hell, I ain't going. I don't know anybody that would go. So why do we need, as American taxpayers, why do we need to pay for a trans opera in Colombia? Why do we need to be paying for Politico? I loved that today when it was announced that that funding was going to get cut. Why do we need to be paying for Politico? I don't watch Politico. Anybody with any intelligence doesn't watch Politico. That's not somewhere where you need to get your news if you're an educated individual. Who cares? Stop spending that money. I don't want my money going to Planned Parenthood. I don't want my money going to DEI companies in India. I don't want my money going to DEI operations in Ukraine. I don't want my money going to buy rockets for Ukraine. All that money, I mean, we've pumped billions of dollars into Ukraine, and Joe and Hunter got half of it back. And the American people, on average, know that. And then you've got the idiots that are too stupid to understand how it works. Go back and look at your elected officials, especially on the government level, but all levels. Go back and look at your elected officials and figure out what they were worth when they got elected into office versus what they're worth now. They're selling you. That's why they hate Trump. He doesn't have to sell you. He's already got money. He doesn't have to sell you. That's the whole reason they hate him. And he's taken away their ability to sell you. And that's taking money out of their pocket. I don't care. Most Republicans could care less about this country. What they care about is what's in it for them. There's probably not a Democrat anywhere that could care less about this country. They care about what is in it for them. And they do these things because you got to move money to steal money. That's really what it all boils down to. You got to move it to steal it. Maxine Waters with her screaming about Elon and what he does. Maxine Waters couldn't get a job cleaning houses if the idiots didn't vote for her. But I doubt 90% of them could get a job doing anything. I guarantee they get. AOC could probably do okay selling booty videos on TikTok. She could probably do okay with that. I mean, that's a pretty big thing nowadays. If that would have been a little more profitable probably before she started running for office, she probably would have made enough money doing that. She wouldn't have fooled with this. That'd probably be right up her alley. She's probably experienced enough to do that. But I guarantee you, Chuck Schumer couldn't get a job. Pocahontas couldn't get a job. None of them get a job. If they had to go somewhere and earn a paycheck by being productive employees, none of them could keep a job more than a week. And that's how we wound up with them, is they convinced all these other idiots to vote for them. And we're all idiots. We've all voted. I mean, I don't care if it's Bill Clinton, George Bush. They're politicians. They don't care about this country. They don't care about you. That's the difference in Trump. We need people that know how to run a business, be financially, physically responsible, and not be looking to sell us out. If you're worth, $5,000 in your checking account, if you've got $5,000 in your checking account when you get elected into one of these offices, and a year later you're worth $5 million, somebody needs to go to jail. Because the job ain't paying that much money. I've said before, when you got people spending $100 million to win an election, that pays $1 million for the contract, the duration of your win, something's probably wrong. Something's probably wrong. And people are just so stupid. They vote for handouts. They vote for handouts. That's how these politicians keep power, is using those of us that actually have jobs and pay something in. The more they can take away from us, the more they can give to the folks that'll vote for them to make sure they can do nothing. And that's how they keep the jobs they have. That's the only way they can keep the job, is by using your money to buy it. And it's ridiculous. They're losing their mind about Trump kicking all these illegals out. Are you going to arrest anybody that didn't commit a crime? If they're here illegally, they committed a crime. That was another beautiful White House press conference. If they're here illegally, they committed a crime. Get them out of here. Get them all out of here. Just put them in, I don't care if you put them in cattle trailers and haul them back to where they came from. That'd be easier than how they got here. Walking 1,000 miles, don't pack them in there like sardines, but just load them in cattle trailers and run them back down to the border. Kick them out and make them walk back across. I don't care. Let somebody else deal with it. We need to worry about us. We need to deal with us. My business is a prime example. The last 4 years have about broke us. We went from a thriving business, making a decent living, to the last 4 years with the changes in insurance and fuel being so high and all the regulations and the DOT ignorance, to wondering if we were going to survive. Now, I see it turning back around now, but a lot of folks didn't survive. I personally know a lot of folks that just their business didn't make it. I mean, the trucking industry is a prime example. The regulations on American businesses, and it's all the emissions, and now it's into everything, even off-road equipment. But the emissions, an American trucking company buys a new truck for $200,000. If they're lucky, they get to run it 4 years, 5 years, 600,000-700,000 miles, and then the engine fails. And the engine failures now, used to, an old Cat or an old Detroit even, or an old Cummins, a couple of million miles was fairly common. Now it's 700,000-800,000 miles, and the truck, it just costs too much to fix it. So they pay $200,000 for it. They run it 5 years, maybe 6 years, and then it's worth $6,000 at an auction, and it winds up going south. Folks call us every day, want us to bring a wrecker and stack them up or put them on a trailer. Drivers can't speak English, pay cash, and load them things up, and they take them down south, and they pull the emissions off of them and delete them, and then they send them right back up here to haul freight. They're right back up here on our highways. Americans can't run them like that, but it's okay if they do. Or they take them down there and they pull the DD15 out or the ISX out, and they put a 60 series in it. And then they send it right back up here and run it. A fair amount of trucks there for a long time were going to Chicago. They go up there, Russians up there, pulling the emissions off of them, deleting them. You see that same truck, it'll come down here. We go over there and stack it, and 6 months later, they're calling us for a road call, or they're showing up here at the shop and won't know if we can work on it. It's deleted. No, we can't. I hope you can't find anybody to work on it. I don't care if you ever get your truck fixed. But they have a huge advantage. They have a huge advantage. And there ain't nothing about helping Americans anymore, American businesses. All these stores that these folks are buying, these sack of panties go by these stores, they don't have to pay no taxes. They're buying it with your money on a grant more often than not. They pay no taxes for 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is now, and then they sell it to their brother so that he can do the same thing, or they sell it to their wife, or they sell it to their son. Restaurants, the same way. I guarantee you half the Mexican restaurants you go eat in, there's a few out there that's American-owned or folks that came here illegally, but most of them are not. And they do the same thing. They buy it with your money. They don't pay taxes. And when it comes time to start paying taxes, they sell it to a family member. And they go somewhere and start over, do another one. I know there's a couple of Mexican restaurants not far from here. At one point, the family had 5, and they rotated who owned which one and who worked at which one. It's crazy. It's crazy that we allow that to happen. Yet we do. It may be over. Maybe we're not going to anymore. Maybe we're not going to anymore. All we can do is pray that this is really going to be a turning point. I, for one, think it is. But I think a big problem we're going to have is just finding people like Donald Trump, people who know how to run a business, people who know how to be successful, people who know how to create jobs, people who actually have experience and they're not just doing, running for politics because they're failures in life, to run against the people that we have in there now and to actually have people back who care about the country. I think it's going to be hard to find people willing to do that. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take people willing to do that, willing to make sacrifice for the good of the country. And until we get to that point, until we find those people, until we start having enough sense to elect those people and to continue to elect those people, we're going to have Chuck Schumers, we're going to have Nancy Pelosi's, we're going to have Joe Biden's, God almighty, we're going to have Camel Toe Harris's. I mean, that's just who we're going to wind up with. They can't do anything else, so they run for office so that they tell us how to live. What a pathetic setup.